She stepped out of the bedroom wearing the same perfume she used to save for anniversaries. The blue dress, the one she'd worn the night she said yes to marrying me, was clinging to her like memory didn't matter. Earrings I gifted her on our 5th anniversary sparkled like a joke. I was still taking off my work boots when she announced it, like I was the doorman instead of the husband. "I'm meeting Jeff, don't wait up. You know how we get talking about Connor's grades and all." Jeff, the man who used to be the fiancé before me, the one she swore was in the rearview mirror, the guy she once called a charming disaster, but somehow still had dinner with twice last month. And now again, just like that, her smile tight, her hand still fixing an earring. Like this was normal. "He's still family," she added, catching my expression in the hallway mirror. "We share a child." I didn't answer, didn't say a damn thing, just nodded, because sarcasm would have been too generous and honesty would have lit the house on fire. She kissed the air near my cheek like she was clocking out of a job. The door clicked behind her. Her heels echoed down the front steps like punctuation marks to a marriage being gradually erased. I stood there a full minute, boots still on, jacket half off. The dog didn't even bark, just looked at me like, "You gonna let that slide again?" Dinner was cold meatloaf, the kind she always said she hated reheating because it never tastes right after. I ate it straight from the Tupperware, sitting at the kitchen island, staring at the fridge like it had answers. There, pinned with a cat-shaped magnet, was the calendar. 3 upcoming dinners, all in pen, his name initialed next to them. Not parent-teacher night, not doctor's appointment, just dinner in J, like she was keeping standing reservations with her past and expecting me to pour the wine. That was the moment something shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, just cleanly, quietly. The kind of shift where a man doesn't yell, doesn't plead, doesn't even pack yet, but mentally he begins turning the locks from the inside. And since we're being honest, really honest, I know most of you reading this aren't subscribed. Over 97% of you to be exact. If you're one of the few who sticks around to the end of these stories, hitting that subscribe button helps the team more than you think. Keeps the stories coming. Keeps the lights on. Anyway, she got home late, smelling like that wine bar she used to say was too trendy. She didn't apologize, just kicked off her heels and scrolled through her phone on the couch. I watched her from the hallway, unseen. She was smiling at something, a message, a meme, something sent by him probably. I didn't ask. Instead, I opened my laptop in the guest room and started updating my resume. I didn't know what job I was looking for. I just knew I needed one far enough that I'd never have to smell that perfume again and pretend it wasn't betrayal dressed up as co-parenting. She'd always accused me of being too quiet, said she never knew what I was really thinking. That night, I finally agreed with her. She had no idea. And I had no plans to change that. The thing about raising someone else's kid is that there's no blueprint. You don't get applause for showing up. You just quietly disappear from the credits when the story reruns. But I never wanted applause. I just wanted to be the man the kid could count on, the man she said she was ready for. When we got married, Jeff, the ex-fiancé, was still in the picture, orbiting like some aging satellite around the planet she and I were building. I never made a scene about it. Didn't stomp my feet or draw ultimatums. "It's just co-parenting," she used to say. "You'll see, it gets easier once the kid gets older." I believed her. Back then, I believed a lot of things. So I paid for Connor's private school. Got him into the one with the robotics lab and the dual language program because he loved machines and had this bizarre love for Spanish soap operas. I paid for his braces too and the therapy sessions when he hit that rough patch in 8th grade. Every Thursday, I'd sit with him at the dining table and help him map out his civics project. We built a scale model of the Capitol building together out of foam and glue sticks. His mother showed up halfway through, saw the mess, and said, "Didn't Jeff already help him with this?" She said it like it wasn't meant to hurt, like she was just asking. Still, I stayed in my lane. I knew I wasn't the biological dad, but I figured biology didn't always make you a father. Showing up does. And Jeff was always just around, birthday parties, school recitals. He'd clap the loudest and bring expensive gifts, then disappear for 3 weeks, the kind of man who leaves fingerprints without ever leaving a presence. But the shift came subtle, not like an earthquake, more like a ceiling crack that got longer each week. First, it was coffee catch-ups to stay on the same page, then occasional dinners, because texting gets confusing. Then I saw a message pop up on her laptop, her laughing at a photo he sent, him apparently at some ski lodge in Colorado with a caption that read, "Remember this place, still makes the best mulled wine." Her reply, "You're such a dork. I do remember. That bartender with the ponytail, haha." That haha told me more than any confrontation ever could. And no, I didn't scroll further. I didn't dig. I didn't need to. I closed the laptop gently and left the room like it was on fire. Later that night, I went into the garage and pulled the dusty banker's box off the shelf, the one with my degree, certifications, and that folder marked Plan B. I never thought I'd use it. I'd packed it during our second year of marriage after one of those you never get me arguments. Never needed it. Until now. I updated my resume, added the promotion from last year, revised the bullet points to sound less loyal, more independent, took out every mention of team player, and replaced it with self-driven. It felt appropriate. She was in the living room the whole time, watching a rerun of The Office while texting, laughing occasionally, probably at one of Jeff's nostalgia bombs. I didn't say a word, because this wasn't a fight anymore. It was a countdown. And I already knew what came after 0. It was one of those couples dinner parties that start off civilized and end with someone oversharing after dessert. 8 of us crowded around a reclaimed wood table like we were all still in our 30s. Wine bottles lined up like soldiers, candles flickering, soft jazz playing on someone's curated Spotify playlist, the kind of evening where everyone pretends their marriages are functioning flawlessly. She wore green, not just green, that green, the one that brought out her eyes and made her look like she actually enjoyed being looked at. I noticed our friend Caleb noticed too, so did his wife briefly. It had been a decent night up until that point. We made the usual small talk, housing markets, travel plans, who's aging gracefully, who's using Botox and pretending it's just clean living. Then someone, I think it was that smug accountant guy Dan, raised his glass mid-laugh and said, "So, when are you going to bring the famous Jeff to one of these?" And just like that, the air shifted. She didn't miss a beat. She didn't recoil or correct. She laughed, a little too freely, a little too familiar. "Oh, Jeff's around," she said, smiling. "We still talk all the time." Everyone chuckled. Everyone but me. I was sitting next to her, mind you. Right there. Husband, fork in hand, smile carefully neutral. But that laugh told the table everything they needed to know, that he was still present, that he still had a seat, maybe not at this table, but at the one that actually mattered to her. I didn't say a word, not a single one. I stood up, gathered the plates with military efficiency, and started clearing them to the kitchen like I'd been the waiter all night. Someone said, "Thanks, Tom." I didn't answer. In the kitchen, I stood over the sink for too long, let the water run until it went hot, then cold again. I wasn't even rinsing anymore. I was just there, holding a wine glass like it was the last fragile piece of patience I had left. She came in eventually, smelled like white wine and smugness, kissed me on the cheek, and whispered, "You okay?" I smiled. Sure. I didn't sleep that night, but not for the reason she thought. I wasn't angry. I was done being angry. Anger gave her too much credit. What I felt was colder, more precise, like checking the perimeter before a quiet escape. By morning, I'd already made the call to the regional office. There'd been an offer on the table last quarter, a leadership position 2 hours north. More money, less politics. I'd said no back then because we'd just recarpeted the upstairs, and Connor had started his junior year. But now? "Is the offer still open?" I asked the regional VP. Pause. "It is, if you want it." I want it. Emails were exchanged, a contract sent. I didn't even ask her to look over it. Why would I? Later that day, she texted, "Great dinner last night. I love when everyone's laughing again." I didn't respond, because I wasn't laughing. I was packing. In my head, on paper, and soon, in real life. Not in boxes, but in boundary lines. She thought I was retreating into silence, but I wasn't. I was advancing, with zero noise. The envelope was unassuming. Just a plain manila folder with a few crisp pages inside, standard HR transfer documents, new salary line item, relocation bonus, and a start date that gave me less than 2 weeks to disappear cleanly. It felt surgical, and somehow satisfying. I signed every page without hesitation, no second thoughts, no late night pacing or self-doubt. The pen I used was one she'd given me for our 3rd anniversary, a Mont Blanc engraved with my initials. "For signing big things," she'd said, winking. I smiled at the memory, then flipped it over and used it to sign the paperwork that would ghost me out of her life. No drama, no announcement, That's the part people never get about men like me. We don't slam doors. We don't pack in front of you. We just stop needing the room. The next morning, I called our leasing agent and said I'd be vacating by the end of the month. When he asked about my wife, I kept it clinical. She'll be staying. The contract was in my name. I'm releasing it. She'll need to renegotiate if she wants to remain. He didn't ask any follow-ups. I think he sensed the frost in my voice, like talking to a man who already left the building even though he was still inside it. I found the new place in one afternoon. 2-bedroom condo, northern edge of the city, decent view, underground parking, granite countertops, sterile and perfect. Exactly the kind of space that didn't need a shared calendar on the fridge or passive-aggressive throw pillows that said, "This is us." The realtor handed me the keys with a smile and a cheery, "Fresh start?" "Something like that," I said. They jingled in my hand like wind chimes. Not loud, but constant. The sound of autonomy. I didn't pack much. A few suits, books, the espresso machine she hated because it clashed with the kitchen aesthetic. She could keep the cast iron skillet. I never liked the weight of it anyway. When I came home that night, she was on the phone, barefoot, glass of wine in hand, pacing by the kitchen island. I caught only pieces of her conversation. "No, he won't care. We've done it before. I'll just say it's for Connor. He always caves when it's about Connor." I walked past her and dropped the mail on the counter. She looked up, smiled absently, then went right back to the call. Didn't notice the keys in my other hand. Didn't notice the shift in temperature in the room. That night, she sat on the couch, rewatching that dumb romantic drama she always claimed was ironic comfort viewing. I was in the guest room, my unofficial new bedroom for the past month, logging into work, changing my employee profile, updating the emergency contact to just my brother, deleted her name, didn't feel guilty. She came in once, leaned on the doorframe and asked, "Want to do Pizza Friday like old times?" I didn't even turn around. "Can't, got a project kicking off early tomorrow." She made a pouty face like I was a stubborn child. "You've been distant lately." I tapped the keyboard, calm as still water. "Have I?" She stood there, waiting for me to say something more. I didn't. Eventually she left, muttering something about how I was always like this under stress. But I wasn't stressed. I was coordinated, and I was done letting someone else draw the blueprint of my patience. A week later, the condo was furnished. Minimalist, no shared anything, just space. Peace, a desk I actually liked, my books, my playlist, no Jeff mentioned in passing, no clinking glasses in the distance, just me. The transfer became official. I didn't tell her. Let the silence explain it. Let her calendar fill with Jeff's initials, not mine. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was just finally letting her eat all her dinners with the only guest she made room for. Friday night, 7:42 p.m. Home late again. Don't wait up. Her text chirped, cheerful as ever, the emoji twisting the knife with that soft smugness only the chronically unbothered can master. What she didn't know was that I hadn't been home in 3 days. The bed was made, the dresser drawers empty except for the sock with the hole in it I'd left on purpose. My own version of a breadcrumb. The closet still had her coats, her blouses arranged by color like she was cataloging her delusions. My side, bare hangers and a faint outline where my suitcase used to rest. She didn't notice. Or she did, and pretended not to. Hard to tell with her, she'd become an expert in ignoring only the things that required change. That night, I sat on the balcony of my new condo, watching headlights blur across the overpass. A whiskey glass balanced on my knee, the new keys cool against my thigh. Quiet. Perfectly quiet. She didn't call, didn't ask. Saturday came and went. Then Sunday, I watched the Bengals game alone, made chili, the kind she always hated because it smells like a frat house. I added extra onions. No one complained. Sunday evening, I muted my phone. No texts, no missed calls. She didn't notice I was gone, not really. That was the part I hadn't anticipated, how unshocking my absence would be to her. She thought I was still doing what I'd always done, swallowing it, excusing it, giving her space because you're so great with Connor and Jeff and I have history. As if my role was that of a glorified spare tire, reliable, invisible, silent unless needed. Monday morning came, and finally, Finally, she called, not me. My assistant. I imagine her voice was sugar-laced with urgency, the kind she used when asking hotel concierges for upgrades. Hi, sorry to bother you, just trying to get in touch with Tom. He's not answering, and I think he's on a work trip but forgot to mention it. My assistant, bless her, is not into games. Oh, she said breezily, he's not on a trip. He transferred last week, full relocation to Northfield. Pause. Didn't he tell you? The silence on the other end must have been deafening. She called my number 5 minutes later. It rang. I watched it buzz across the table. No photo of her on my screen anymore. Just the word wife in grayscale. I let it ring out. Then she texted, "What the hell does full relocation mean?" I didn't reply. Instead, I stood up, poured another drink, and pulled the curtain back open to let the afternoon sun glare in. She'd always hated that. It's too harsh, close it. But now the room belonged to someone who wasn't afraid of daylight. Somewhere across town, or maybe still sitting in the kitchen where I used to make her coffee, she was staring at a made bed and pretending I was just late again. But I wasn't. I was gone. And I'd left nothing behind but silence, and a sock with a hole in it. She wanted space, she got it, entire counties of it. It took her 4 more days to pick up the phone, not to text, not to hint, to actually call. No emojis, no passive-aggressive gifs, just a raw dial tone slicing through her arrogance. When I saw her name light up my screen, I didn't feel a thing. No nerves, no fury, not even bitterness. Just that quiet weightlessness of someone who already stepped off the ledge and realized the ground wasn't what was holding him up all along. I answered on the 4th ring, let her sit in the silence. "Why aren't you home?" she asked, voice low, clipped, like she was trying to sound calm but couldn't quite hide the strain. "Where the hell are you?" I didn't say a word, just flipped the phone camera on and snapped a photo. My new keys, resting on a polished granite countertop. Under them, the lease agreement, my name alone. Then I sent it, attached with a short line. "I gave you space." That was it. The typing bubble started almost immediately, then stopped, then started again. Then came the callback. I let it go to voicemail. She tried again. This time her voice was different, sharper, rising. You moved and didn't tell me? You didn't even talk to me." Still, I didn't reply. She was looking for a fight. A stage, a round of shouting to feed the story she'd already written in her head. He was jealous, possessive, couldn't handle co-parenting dynamics, but I didn't show up for the role. Instead, I was in my kitchen, pouring coffee into a mug she'd never seen. Ceramic, matte black, not some Instagrammable couple set. It wasn't ours. There was no ours. Back in the house, she thought we still shared. I imagined she was pacing, maybe even flipping through drawers, checking closets, realizing finally that all my things were gone. Not just my clothes or toiletries, but the quiet little evidences of my presence. The second remote, the charging cable she always stole, the bottle of aftershave she used to secretly borrow and never admit, gone. She texted again. "You seriously think this is how adults handle problems? You just leave." I didn't answer, but I did reread that last line, because it was funny. She wanted to talk about how adults handle problems. This from the woman who set calendar dates for dinner with her ex-fiancé and labeled them Connor catch-ups, even though their kid wasn't even present half the time. This from the woman who laughed when someone joked about bringing Jeff to social events, as if I hadn't been sitting right beside her when she did. She thought she'd push, and I'd push back. She thought she'd get tears, ultimatums, maybe even some grand gesture of masculine pain, but what she got instead was an empty bed, an unanswered phone, and a snapshot of keys that didn't match any door she had access to. That's the part that really gets them, the ones who assume they can dance at the edge forever, the moment they realize they weren't standing on solid ground at all. Just grace, just patience, just someone else's willingness to not make it a fight. And when that patience finally packs up and walks away, they panic, not because you left, but because you didn't warn them, because you didn't beg them to stop, because you didn't give them a final scene to script, just silence, and a photo, and a door they no longer have the keys to. Brunch. That's where she launched the spin campaign. Eggs Benedict, overpriced lattes, and her curated circle of couple friends, people who wore matching weekend hoodies and posted captions like, "Grateful for slow mornings." The same crowd that used to invite us as a pair, the same ones who now greeted her with slightly longer hugs, slightly tilted heads, like we heard something but will let you speak first. She went for the jugular early. Tom's just dramatic, she said, laughing in that performative way people do when they're trying to control the room. I mean, he literally moved out without a word. Who does that? I guess I didn't realize I was married to a ghost. Someone chuckled, politely, the kind of laugh you give when you're not sure if it's okay to join in. She kept going. It's not what it looks like. Jeff and I only met to talk about Connor. It's co-parenting. Healthy adults do that. Tom overreacted. He's always been sensitive about boundaries. That's the word she leaned on, sensitive, like I was a toddler flinching at bright lights instead of a man who watched his marriage slowly hemorrhage from 1,000 little smirks and shared memories that didn't include me. She wanted it to sound like a communication breakdown, like I packed a U-Haul because I couldn't handle the complexities of modern families. She smiled through it all, placed her napkin in her lap, sipped her mimosa. She knew the game. Control the narrative, make sure her version lands first. But she didn't account for Connor. That afternoon, at a different gathering, a backyard cookout hosted by our mutual friend Lex, someone asked Connor if he was doing okay. Subtle, kind, one of those adult-to-teen questions where the real query is, how bad is it at home right now? Connor, flipping a burger with the awkward grace of a 17-year-old, said casually, yeah, Tom and I still talk. He helped me with my college essay last week over Zoom. Didn't even mention the move, just asked about my deadline. The group went quiet. Not uncomfortable, just still, like they were measuring the weight of that sentence. He helped me, didn't mention the move, just asked about my deadline. No bitterness, no sarcasm, just facts. Lex's wife shifted in her seat. Someone else muttered, that's good of him. Another friend nodded but avoided eye contact. And suddenly, all the little comments she'd planted at brunch felt hollow. Because people may nod along with you in daylight, but they watch what happens after dark. And what they were seeing now wasn't a man who flounced out. It was a man who quietly withdrew and kept showing up for the one person who didn't owe him anything. No one called her out, not directly. That's not how these circles work. They're too polite for that. But she felt it. The hesitation when she spoke, the slow fade of reactions to her Instagram stories, the missing tags on group photos, even her signature laugh. The loud, performative one she used to punctuate her own jokes started landing flat. People weren't laughing, not because they chose me, but because I hadn't said a word, and that silence said more than her entire monologue. She tried again the next weekend. A different group, same script, lighter tone. Tom always did have a flair for the dramatic, she said, sipping her drink. Moved into a condo like he's the star of some midlife indie movie. This time, no one even looked up from their plates. And she knew, not because anyone confronted her, but because no one rushed to agree, no one rushed to defend, and worst of all, no one rushed to laugh. She didn't bring documents, just a leather tote, a half-empty La Croix, and a shaky sense of control she mistook for confidence. The attorney, middle-aged, clean-shaven, sharp but not smug, welcomed her in with the cool efficiency of someone who'd seen every version of "he left and I didn't see it coming." I'm not filing, she clarified immediately, easing into the leather chair like it owed her something. This is just preemptive. Contingency planning. I'm sure we'll talk it out. The attorney nodded once, didn't argue, just tapped his pen and asked the first question like he always did. Any shared property? She exhaled, relieved to finally be the one holding the narrative again. Well, the house is... She stopped. It hit her mid-sentence. There was no house. The lease had been in Tom's name, and he'd already terminated it. The condo he'd moved into, she had no address, no access, not even a forwarding label on the junk mail. The lease was his, she said, more to herself than to him. I thought we were going to renew. The attorney made a small note. Okay, what about the car? She blinked. Mine. Technically, he always hated that SUV, said it felt like driving a tank. Joint accounts? That's when her voice wavered. We had one, for bills and groceries. She pulled out her phone and tapped open the app. Her face twisted, not in shock, but in recognition of something she had been trying not to confirm for days. Balance. But there was no transfer alert, no flagged withdrawals. Just half the money. Gone. as if someone had simply taken what was theirs and left the rest untouched. Surgical, clean. The attorney raised an eyebrow. Looks like he only withdrew his portion. No overdraft, no freeze. He didn't try to lock you out. No, she said slowly, he didn't. There was a pause, heavy, like the room itself had tilted slightly, and she was only now feeling the gravity. What about credit cards? He asked. All separate, she muttered. We always kept them separate, said it was easier to track expenses. He nodded. So no joint debt, no mortgage, no shared property titles. He hasn't contested custody. There's nothing to contest, she snapped. Connor's not his, biologically. The attorney remained neutral. Understood. Still, he seems to have removed himself cleanly. Removed himself cleanly. She hated the way that phrase sat in the room. Like she was being described as a spill, and he'd managed not to stain his shoes on the way out. She fidgeted. He left so quietly. That's usually how the prepared ones do it, the attorney replied, almost absent-mindedly. They don't fight, they extract. For the first time in days, she didn't have a retort. No spin, no moral high ground, just the dawning unease that she'd been shadowboxing with a man who was no longer even in the ring. What are my options? She asked finally. The attorney folded his hands. Depends on what you want. If this is just about preparation, then we can draft a separation framework. But honestly, he hasn't taken anything that wasn't already his. No assets, no leverage, no aggression. If this goes to court, he'll come off as reasonable. She stared at him. So, I can't do anything? You can reach out, he said. Try to talk. But legally, there's no claim. You're not fighting a storm. You're watching a man walk away without slamming a single door. She left 10 minutes later. No documents in hand. Just the same half-empty La Croix and a tote that suddenly felt heavier. She sat in the driver's seat of the SUV, her SUV, and stared at the steering wheel like it had betrayed her. He'd always hated this thing, said it felt like driving a refrigerator. She used to mock him for it. Now she understood the weight, the clumsiness, the way you can sit inside something and still feel completely out of control. She texted him once later that evening, "We need to talk." No reply. Because the problem wasn't that Tom had run, it was that he walked, calmly, completely, and without leaving her anything to throw back at him. She booked the booth 3 days in advance, her little comeback act, a dinner to remind Connor that she was the stable one, that Jeff, the ex-fiancé, still had a place at the table, that maybe, just maybe, she could make the pieces fit again with enough charm, good wine, and the right shade of lipstick. It was the same bistro where Tom used to surprise her with midweek lunches, where he once reserved the patio and slow danced with her under fairy lights when she got promoted. She didn't flinch, choosing the spot. In her mind, this dinner wasn't about memory. It was about control. She texted Connor. Dinner at Brambles, 7 p.m. Me, you, and your dad. We'll talk scholarships, okay? He replied 20 minutes later, short and casual. Already ate with Tom. He's in town. Help me with the scholarship essay. No apology, no delay, just fact. She stared at the screen like it had slapped her. She called, voicemail. She called again, straight to voicemail. Then she called Jeff, who answered on the second ring. You didn't tell me Tom was in town, she said, tone tight. Jeff yawned audibly. I didn't know I was responsible for his calendar. Well, are you still coming? There was a pause. I thought it was a maybe. Look, if Connor's not coming, I'll pass. I don't really want to do a candlelit therapy session with my ex over risotto. She hung up without saying goodbye. Still, she went. Hair curled, nails fresh, the blue wrap dress, the one she used to wear when Tom would send flirty texts from across the dinner table. She was going to own the narrative, sit tall, order confidently, prove that she wasn't unraveling. The hostess greeted her politely. Table for 3? Yes, she said, forcing a breezy smile. They'll be here shortly. She slid into the booth. Center seat, power position. The kind where you can pivot in either direction and still feel in control. She ordered a glass of wine. Checked her phone, nothing. 7:30 came, still nothing. The waiter approached again, notebook tucked under his arm. Will the others be joining you soon, or? She swallowed. Her throat felt tight. Change of plans, she said, carefully arranging her napkin. Just me tonight. The waiter nodded and walked off, polite but too fast, like he already knew. She stared at the empty seats across from her. The table was set for three, polished silverware, folded napkins, water glasses beating with condensation, the illusion of connection, all waiting for people who had no intention of showing up. Across the room, a family laughed loudly over dessert. A dad snapped a photo of his teenage son holding a forkful of cake. She looked away. The waiter brought her risotto. It tasted like paste. She tried to distract herself, scrolled through old texts, found a message from Tom, dated months ago. Got your oil changed, tires too. You probably won't notice, but figured I'd do it anyway. She remembered laughing at the time, called him obsessive, said he needed a hobby. Now her dashboard had been blinking maintenance required for 3 days, and she kept forgetting to schedule it. She paid in cash, left a generous tip, mostly out of shame. As she stood up, she glanced once more at the empty chairs. They weren't just seats, they were placeholders for what she used to have. Tom's quiet loyalty, Connor's trust, even Jeff's willingness to pretend. She'd counted on the past to validate the present, but the past didn't show up, and the present didn't care. She walked out alone, heels clicking too loud against the tile, past a table of strangers who looked up, smiled politely, and then went right back to their conversation. No one remembered her name, except maybe the waiter, and even he only wrote it down to split the check. She wasn't looking for him, not intentionally. It started like most afternoons did now, scrolling through LinkedIn under the pretense of networking while sipping lukewarm coffee and pretending the silence in the house was peaceful. The algorithm served her a sponsored post for a leadership seminar. Underneath it, in the People You May Know carousel, there he was, Tom, smiling in a crisp navy suit she didn't recognize. His tie matched the company logo behind him. The banner above read, Northfield Regional Annual Leadership Summit. She clicked on the photo. It expanded into high-res clarity. He stood center, no longer the man who slouched under the weight of compromise. His posture was straight, eyes bright, arms crossed like someone who finally understood the difference between quiet and invisible. Tagged in the corner, Tom Willis, Regional Director, Strategic Operations. The title hit her like an ice bath. Director? He'd only been gone a few weeks, and already he'd climbed. Or maybe, more accurately, he'd been climbing the whole time. Just not where she could see it. The caption read, Thrilled to announce Tom Willis's promotion to Regional Director. A steady hand, sharp mind, and quiet leader. Exactly what Northfield needed. Comments poured in. Couldn't have gone to a better guy. Well deserved, Tom. Hope the move's been good. She scanned them, fingers numb, until one caught her eye. Congrats. Hope the move's been good. And his reply, plain as a knife slipping through soft fabric. Best decision I made all year. No emojis, no flourish, just fact. She didn't realize how long she'd been holding her breath until she exhaled, and it sounded like a gasp. Reflexively, she checked her inbox. Nothing. Not even a calendar notification from the joint app they used to share. He'd removed himself from everything. No social follow, no unread messages, no passive breadcrumbs to imply he'd left a door open. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She wanted to type something, anything. Hey, wow, congrats. Funny seeing you here. But she didn't, because she knew if she sent anything now, it wouldn't be for him, it would be for her. And Tom was done playing that role. She minimized the window, but the image burned behind her eyes. Him, standing in a group of colleagues, his smile slightly different than the one she remembered. Less strained, less trying. A man who didn't need to reclaim anything because he never lost himself. He just walked away from someone who stopped noticing. She glanced around the room. Same house, same furniture, same ceramic wine rack that Tom used to refill without being asked. The same fridge calendar where she used to scribble in dinners with Jeff like they were untouchable court orders. She walked to the fridge, looked at the empty page for next month. No initials, no dinner plans, no Tom. The silence didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt permanent. She thought maybe that after some time, after some space, Tom would circle back, that there would be a conversation, a confrontation, something loud enough to feel like closure. But this wasn't a retreat, it was a finish line, and the only sound left was the quiet of someone who'd crossed it without her.